Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Paige Carbone, and on behalf of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I'd like to welcome you all to our press conference for .05 Saves Lives. Today you will hear from some of our victim advocates and some of our partners and co-sponsors of this bill. With that, I would like to introduce one of our co-sponsors, Senator John Liu.
Thank you, Paige. I'm so happy to see everybody here in the state capitol today, advocating for and fighting for this important legislation. .05 does save lives. And over 100 countries around the world have already adopted the .05 standard as the definition for drunken driving. The reality is, we're competing with a lot today in the state capitol. And the reality is also that drunken driving has become even worse of a problem in recent years. During the pandemic and in the years ensuing, drunken driving has been increasing to the point where we are losing more and more lives. This is the wrong direction. We should be heading in the opposite direction. We need to put this trend in reverse and stop drunken driving. And the best way to do that is make a very clear definition that it's not .08 where you are impaired. A person is impaired already when they are at .05 blood alcohol content. That's why we need to follow suit with 100 other nations, the state of Utah, in making DWI at .05 here in the state of New York. We need to do this to save lives. And there are others who will say, well, .08 is a good enough definition, that we don't need .05. All the science, all the data points to .05 being the correct standard, because that really is when you start losing motor skills, judgment skills, coordination skills. And we're not trying to stop people from having a good time. If you want to go out, go to a restaurant, have drinks, have as many drinks as you like. Just don't get behind the wheel after you have a drink. That's what we're doing here. And you know, I was speaking to Elisa McMorris. It's been 5 years since Andrew left us. I'm so happy to see so many of his friends here. And it's 5 years too long that we're waiting for this bill. The McMorris family and the countless others who have suffered unspeakable pain. We need to continue this fight to pass this legislation so that it becomes law and so that we spare so many other families from the pain and suffering that too many families have already been through. Yes. I'm so proud to be joined by my colleague, Senator Monica Martinez, Senator Anthony Palumbo, Senator Shelley Mayer, and others. There's a lot of rallies going on here. We'll hear from them a little bit later. But thank you so much, especially to the young people, because, you know, all the change, the important change that is made in this state and in this country are always brought about by young people. Thank you so much. Give yourselves a round of applause. And now I turn it back to Paige.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Liu, for your support, and I would like to introduce another co-sponsor of our .05 bill, Assemblywoman JoAnne Simon. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we do need to fix Tier 6.
Hold on. .05! .05! .05! .05!
Thank you, John. So there is a lot we need to do in New York State, and one of the things we need to do.
That's not a microphone.
It's not a microphone, I know, but you know I feel like it is. So, thank you, John. You can always count on John. He's loud. He's great. He gets right to the point. So the point is this: too many people get behind the wheel when they are intoxicated. And if they are intoxicated at .05, we don't penalize them. Our standard in New York is 0.08. And the reality is that at 0.05, we can document cognitive changes, psychomotor changes, lack of attention, failing to recognize moving objects in the way that they are moving. All of those are things that we know happen at 0.05. But right now at 0.05, if you get behind the wheel, you can plead that down to 0.08 and not have to have an ignition interlock. So this is a little in the weeds, but the reality is because we have not set that standard at 0.05, we are allowing people to get behind the wheel, we're allowing them to drive drunk, and we need to make that more severe penalty. We need to make sure that the standard for driving drunk in New York State, for driving intoxicated, is 0.05, like the rest of the world. The National Transportation Safety Board has been advocating for this for over a decade. This is not new. We have known this for years, and the rest of the world has been doing it, including in countries where there is a strong culture of drinking. And what happens is when people know what that limit is, they abide by the limit, and because they're concerned about meeting that limit, they either drink less or they find another way home. So we're happy, have the drinks you want, find another way home, and don't endanger yourself and the lives of others on the road. Thank you to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Thank you to the parents and the survivors of folks who have lost their lives to traffic violence because of intoxication. And thank you so much to the young people. We are doing this for you, and it is your action that is giving us the energy and the commitment and the resolve to continue to fight this fight. So thank you very much for coming today.
0.05!
0.05! 0.05! 0.05!
Thank you, Assembly Member Simon. I would like to next join me at the podium, invite up Assembly Member Mary Jane Shimsky.
Thank you so much, everyone. There was a sign up there that I saw, the number 13,000. Drunk and impaired driving is one of the leading causes of preventable death in this state and in this country. We have to do something about it. We all know we've been driving the last few years. After COVID, it's gotten a lot more challenging to drive, even without alcohol. Our roads and bridges are in worse shape than ever. That makes it more challenging to drive without alcohol. You put more than 0.05 in your blood system, that is just a recipe for disaster. And I just want to address myself to the young people who are here. I see the sadness in so many eyes up there. Drunk driving collisions is one of the leading causes of death for young children, teens, and young adults in this country. We, as the generation with the power, owe it to all of you that we start taking this seriously, and the first thing we do is 0.05. We will do whatever we can to move it forward. We thank you for your hard work and for your inspiration, and quite frankly, shaming the adults into doing what needs to be done. 0.05, everyone.
Thank you, Assembly Member Shimsky. Thank you for being here. And next, I would like to invite to the podium Senator Anthony Palumbo.
Very good. Thank you, Paige. Are those more students? Do you guys want to get in? You guys can get in? Come on in.
JoAnne, we'll talk soon.
maybe fill in on this side too?
Yeah.
Come on in.
Come on.
Welcome. All right. Well, this is democracy in action,
Anthony,
right?
Can we gotta warm up the newcomers.
Yeah, let's get them.
On this side, if you're on this side, you're gonna do .05, and on this side, you're gonna do saves lives. And if you're not sure if you're on this side or this side,
Just
do
pick
it
one.
both times.
Do both of them.
All right.
Ready?
.05.
Saves lives.
Saves lives.
Great work.
I warmed them
Great
up
work.
for you.
You sure did. Well, thank you, Senator Liu and Paige.
That's how it's done.
And that sure is. And Assemblywoman Simon, thank you for bringing this legislation forward. And to the McMorris family, sadly, Andrew was in my district when this crash happened. And I have, of course, Storm Wading River is in my district. These are my people. But I've had occasion to deal with these types of cases as a prosecutor. And it is 100% preventable. And that's the point here. This is a bad decision. This is people not planning their evening properly. You're an adult, you want to go out, you want to drink alcohol, you want to do drugs, whatever it may be. You don't get in a vehicle and move it an inch. And it's that simple. This is that preventable. So .05 will make a huge difference. And you see up there on the sign, 11% less. And how often do we see in the legislature where people say, this is going to save lives, this bill will do this bill will do that? Well, guess what? This is a bill that will save lives, period. So we need to get this to the floor. I thank my colleagues, and I thank all the families. God bless you all. Thanks again. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you so much for your support. We have many victim advocates here with us today, and I would like to call up one to share her story. Please welcome to the podium, Erica Lynn.
Thank you, Paige, and thank you. Oh,
Just scream.
just scream. Thank you, Senator Liu. Thank you, Assemblywoman Simon, for your unending support and courage, because it takes courage to do the right thing. And I am a victim advocate. I lost my parents on my 50th birthday. They were slaughtered in Westchester. They were hit by a drunk driver who drank a bottle of Jack Daniels at home, got into her car, drove to a bar, and had 4 more vodkas, 2 that the bar bought back. She hit my parents going 90 miles per hour and threw them 60 feet into a wooded area. My husband was planning an entirely beautiful weekend for me for my 50th birthday when that horrendous phone call came in, not knowing if they were dead or alive. I'm going to give you the kicker on this woman, okay? Not only did she kill and slaughter my parents, but she was on her way to pick up her 3, 5, and 7-year-old children. And you talk about what she would have done to them. She's already destroyed their lives. I arrived at the hospital to a mother that was dead and a surgeon covered in her blood, head to toe. And he said to us, I took your mother's heart out. I did everything I could. And they said, your father is going to live. He's going to be okay. He dodged the bullet. He's complaining of pains in his legs. Well, what happened was I was taken to another room because I was distraught that my mother was dead, and I never got to say goodbye or I love you. Meanwhile, fast forward 5 hours later, I'm in an intensive care unit surrounded by family and friends, and that same surgeon came back out and said, "It's happened again." And I said, "What happened again?" And they said, "Your father has had 5 cardiac arrests." And I was his caregiver. I was his healthcare proxy. And he was my hero. And I had to go into that room, listening next door to that offender screaming obscenities as my father took his last breaths. And I saw the blood caked on his hands. And I said, "It's okay, go with mommy." My life has never been the same. But since that moment, I have been determined to turn my pain into passion. And why? My fate is sealed, everybody. I lost my parents. I lost my life with them. They should still be here now. That is what I never can reconcile. This is a 100% preventable crime. How could I ever wrap my arms around why they are not here today? And basically, we have the laws from our courageous lawmakers that say to us, we can change this. We can save lives. We are in a public health and safety crisis right now. 2 out of 3 of all of us will be affected by a drunk driver in our lifetime if we continue to do nothing. Okay? 2 out of 3 affected. We can't afford to lose any more lives. We are in a building of power. We have our children here behind us. We don't want to lose another life to this 100% preventable crime. And I ask all of our lawmakers, every single one of you, if not now, when? When? How many lives have to be lost? How many more families have to be destroyed? How many of us have to live with the what if that they could be here? We have the answer. 0.05 saves lives. 0.05 saves lives. 0.05. We have the answer. Now is the time to act. I am sick and tired of seeing fellow New Yorkers dying senselessly. So let's make this about all of us. As I said, it's not poor Erica. My fate is sealed. This is about all of us staying safe. And this is what our courageous lawmakers who are sponsoring this bill bring to the table. Now we need to bring all of our legislators. This isn't a Republican issue. This isn't a Democrat issue. It's a New York issue. Yeah. Let's get it done, New York. Thank you very much. Woo!
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Erica. Your courage and the way that you take your pain and put it to purpose is just why we're here today. I would like to welcome to the podium Assembly Member Jody Giglio.
These families and these kids behind me are the victims of lawlessness in New York State, where people can get behind the wheel, whether they're intoxicated by drugs or intoxicated by alcohol, and serve a very small punishment for where these families have to spend the rest of their lives being punished with their loved ones taken away from them. The laws need to be stricter. We need to enforce the laws. We need to hold people accountable, because the pain and suffering that these families and that these kids feel, I mean, look at these kids. I am so proud of these kids. You know, these kids grew up and they learned in school, they learned do not drink and drive. Get a designated driver. And my kids grew up with that, thanks to MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And the people that don't abide by the same laws that our kids are abiding by need to be held accountable. And we need more laws that hold people accountable. And killing somebody or severely injuring somebody on the side of the road is manslaughter. and should be considered manslaughter. And I'm happy to stand here with my fellow Assembly and Senate members today to make sure that these bills make it across the finish line. It's too long, too many families suffering, and too many people held unaccountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to call up another one of our victim advocates who is also a survivor of a drunk driving crash to share her story. And please welcome to the podium, Carol Sears.
Hi everyone. I just want to first thank Senator Liu, who's amazing, and Assemblywoman Simon, who are amazing, for what you're doing for us. It's not just for us, but it's for everyone. My story, what?
Just speak. It's not
Okay. My story began on November 8th, 2002, when my husband and I were driving home from a very brief trip to Florida to help some friends with something. Why didn't we fly? Because it was the year after 9/11, and my husband Andy, who was not a good flyer in regular times, only wanted to drive because driving was safer. And nothing would happen if we were driving, except for the fact that as we were coming home on I-95 in southern Georgia, a young man with a record a mile long for DWIs, drugs, selling drugs, was speeding along south. He was stopped by a Georgia state trooper who said, "You are going 92 miles an hour, you're going to kill someone." How we knew it was that it was filmed on the policeman's car, and we got the film. He was clearly under the influence. He was jumping around and saying, "I got to get my pills by 7:30, you got to let me go." And he gave him a ticket and he let him go. Well, 15 minutes later, as we were coming north, he was speeding south, he hit a truck, he lost control and came just speeding across the middle. There was nothing to stop him. There was no barrier, there were no trees. It was just flat grass. And we saw one light coming at us like this, and it was all over. My husband Andy was driving, so he took the brunt of it. Literally every bone in his body was broken. His arms, his legs, his pelvis, all of his ribs, and his clavicle went into his heart. He was still alive when the police got us out of the cars. They had to use the jaws of life to get Andy out. When I looked down, I looked at my legs, and they didn't look like legs. The bones were sticking out jagged on my right leg, and my left foot and ankle was completely broken. They took us to a little hospital in southern Georgia, where two New Yorkers who were used to the New York care I'm thinking, oh boy, and there was a nurse who kept coming back and forth between my husband and me and saying, "Your husband's so worried about you. He wants you to know how much he loves you." And I would send the message back. I never knew for a second that I was never going to see Andy again. Andy and I met at camp when we were kids. I was 13 and he was an older man. He was a 16-year-old waiter, and we were together all our lives. We were married very young. At the time of the crash, we had been married 33 years. They told me that they were going to have to take Andy to a Trauma 1 center in Savannah, which was 70 miles away, and I gave my permission. And the doctor said he had to take me right in for surgery. While they were getting Andy into the ambulance, he started having trouble breathing, and they put him on a ventilator. And before they got him to Savannah, his heart had stopped and his brain waves had stopped. May I say again, for absolutely no reason. Our kids who were waiting for us, our daughter was finishing up college at University of Maryland, and our son had just graduated from law school and was living in Philadelphia waiting for the bar results, were waiting for us. We were coming first to Jill and then to Jeremy. And instead, they got the phone call that we as parents dread, only it was your parents have been in a crash. They had to get down to us the next day, and by the time they even met each other, Andy was gone. It was one of the things that I always think about was Andy had diabetes. He had gotten it when he was 24 and had been taking insulin all those years. And he was so careful to stay healthy. He was taking 4 shots a day and blood testing all the time. And yet in 1 second, this man took it all from us. And Jill, our daughter, started screaming. She didn't know he was gone, called the hospital in Savannah and saying, my dad has diabetes, you have to be careful, please watch his blood sugar. And the nurse, who was not obviously the most sympathetic person, said to her, honey, your diabetes is something your dad doesn't have to worry about anymore. Yeah. Eventually, I was flown home in a couple weeks, and I spent 7 months in a wheelchair with a nurse at home, going back and forth in an ambulance to Lenox Hill Hospital, where my surgeon was putting me back together again. And as you can see, I can walk. I can't walk without a shoe because I have no movement in my left foot. I work. I'm a realtor, which means I do a lot of stairs. But Andy is gone for all these years for absolutely no reason. So here we are today. All of my dear friends from MADD and from the government pleading with you to stop this. It is the most preventable crime in the world, just not to drink and drive. .05 is going to save lives, and we plead with you to please, please pass the .05 law. I have one thing I want to read to you, and I hope you can hear me. It's a poem that we don't know who wrote it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. It's called Somebody Should Have Taught Him, unknown author. I went to a party and remembered what you said. You told me not to drink, Mom, so I had a Sprite instead. I felt proud of myself, the way you said I would, that I didn't drink and drive, though some of my friends said I should. I made a healthy choice, and your advice to me was right. The party finally ended, and the kids drove out of sight. I got into my car, sure to get home in one piece. I never saw what was coming, Mom, something I expected least. Now I'm lying on the pavement, and I can hear the policeman say, that kid that caused the wreck was drunk. Mom, his voice seems so far away. My own blood's all around me as I try hard not to cry. I can hear the paramedic say, that girl is gonna die. I'm sure the guy had no idea, Mom, while he was flying high, because he chose to drink and drive. Now I would have to die. So why do people do it, Mom, knowing it ruins lives? And now the pain is cutting me like 100 stabbing knives. Tell sister not to be afraid. Tell daddy to be brave. And when I go to heaven, Mom, put daddy's girl on my grave. Someone should have taught him that it's wrong to drink and drive. Maybe if his parents had, I'd still be alive. My breath is getting shorter, Mom. I'm getting really scared. And so these are my final moments, and I'm so unprepared. I wish that you could hold me, Mom, as I lie here and die. I wish that I could say, Mom, I love you and goodbye. Please pass .05. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for your words. Just so touching. I would like to now bring up another one of our victim advocates to share her story. Her name is Elisa McMorris, and she will be joined by 2 students from Shoreham-Wading River High School, Tori, and Emily. Please come to the podium.
Hello. Hello. My name is Tori Cintorino, and I am from the town of Shoreham, New York. I would like to introduce my peers from Shoreham Wading River High School's AP Government and Politics class, who are currently here to observe the process of creating a law. I was friends with a boy by the name of Andrew McMorris throughout my childhood. He was enthralled by the world of music, filmmaking, and any new hobby he could get his hands on, and later on in his life had planned on becoming a pilot when he grew up. On September 30th, 2018, 12-year-old Andrew, while on a hike with his Boy Scout Troop 161, was struck and killed by a drunk driver. A boy so full of life was suddenly taken and in his absence left our small community filled with unthinkable grief. It was not only painful for 12-year-old me, but it was incredibly traumatic. We are here to see that we are the generation that ends impaired and drunk driving. Yes. And make sure no community has to go through what we went through. Through the Andrew McMorris Foundation, run by Andrew's parents, Elisa and John McMorris, and the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, we are here to take the steps required to make real change. I would like to thank our district legislators, Senator Palumbo and Assemblywoman Giglio, as well as Senator Liu, Assembly Member Simon for sponsoring this legislation. And at this time, I would like to welcome Andrew's mom to say a few words. Thank you.
It is my distinct pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you today, surrounded by all of Andrew's dear friends, his classmates, and these legislators and assembly. Erica, Carol, and I are part of this terrible club of loss from something that was 100% preventable. We continue to share our stories, despite the pain, to allow our tragedies to sit with all of you just long enough so that you'll be compelled to make a change. Thank you so much. This legislation is so important to us because 5.5 years ago, I stood beside Senator Liu when he first introduced this, and it was my first press conference after Andrew had died. And I know that we have to close all of these little legislative loopholes so that we can end impaired driving. Every 39 minutes, someone else has died. When I first did this discussion, it was every 52 minutes. We're going in the wrong way. 1,982 days ago, on a crisp fall day, my son's life was taken from him by a drunk driver who couldn't say no. He plowed through an entire line of scouts, knocking them off one by one. Agonizing screams from children that ended with my son screaming in the air, landing on the pavement, to be internally decapitated by his spine. We held his hand in the quiet hours of October 1st. As he grew cold, we whispered to him, played his favorite music, and told him that it was okay to go be with God. No parent should ever have to endure the loss of a child. You are forever broken. We have a hole in our heart, the shape and size of Andrew, for something that was 100% preventable. No grandparent, sibling, daughter, wife should ever have to experience this. We will no longer hear Andrew echo his beautiful sounds on the piano, his voice, and anything else that he had planned. This is an intense, unbearable grief that is preventable, and that is the sickening part about all of this. One of my favorite quotes are, "Be the things that you love the most about the ones you loved." And that is what we are doing here today. So through our despair, we found hope in creating a foundation so that we may have a vehicle to change from parenting Andrew to parenting his legacy. The Andrew McMorris Foundation partners with MADD every step of the way, and together we will make meaningful changes. In 2013, over 10 years ago, the NTSB issued a safety recommendation to all 50 states to establish a BAC of 0.05. And when Utah lowered its BAC, they saw a drop in deaths by 19.8%. We have to make sure that this goes through, because we know the science is real. We know that people are impaired at 0.05. We can no longer look the other way. Willful ignorance will no longer be tolerated. The number of alcohol-related crashes is the highest it's been since 2006, the year Andrew and many of his classmates were born. Driving impaired is not an accident, but a choice, and we can choose to be the generation that ends drunk and impaired driving. But we need the help of legislators to fill in the gaps and help us end this. This year, Andrew would be 18. the reality of many of us standing here, and he should be here with his classmates.
Yes.
He should be graduating with his classmates. He should be enjoying the college search with his classmates. The future starts here with common sense legislation. On behalf of MADD, the Andrew McMorris Foundation, my family, Andrew's friends, thank you for listening to us today. And this time I want to invite you, but no one can say it better than his dear friends, and I'd like to allow Emily Cordano to say a few words about her friend.
All right, Emily.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Cordano. I am a senior from Shoreham-Wading River High School on Long Island. Andrew McMorris was one of my good friends. He was killed by a drunk driver when he was only 12. Andrew never graduated 8th grade. He never attended high school or college, and he will never be able to pursue his career as a pilot. Andrew participated in countless activities to better not only his life, but the lives of others. Andrew was involved in the arts, sports, music, and Boy Scouts. Andrew could enter a room and immediately bring a smile to everyone's face. He made others smile through his music and paintings. Andrew also did a spot-on Michael Jackson impression. He loved planes. I had the opportunity to try his flight simulator when I went to his grandparents' house to make beef stew in 6th grade. Andrew was the sort of person who improved your life just by knowing him. And if our legislators hear our voice today, then Andrew's death won't mean the end of his ability to improve others around him. His death was 100% preventable. It was no accident. Andrew died because of the callous negligence and unforgivable choices made by a drunk driver. We are here to call for critically necessary updates to our legislation to reduce the chances of having another brilliant young life torn from their family and friends. To solve this problem, it will take all of us. It is a huge puzzle. Some pieces are small and some are large, but we need all of them, including amendments in current and new laws, to put this puzzle together and make our generation the generation that ends drunk and impaired driving. We are here because Andrew can't be, and for the future Andrews that can be saved with this legislation. By passing laws that make it harder to drive drunk and impaired, this will prevent someone else losing a son, a brother, a cousin, a friend, a mother, a father, and a husband. Thank you.
Thank you to our supporters for being here today and our victim advocates and students who shared their story. We want to take the time to thank Senator Liu and Assembly Member Simon for co-sponsoring this bill, and thank you to other members of the Senate and Assembly who joined us today just to talk about how important our message is, how important saving lives due to drunk and impaired driving is. So I'm going to ask this group behind me one more time, what do we want? 05
Saves lives.
.5 saves lives.
.5 saves lives.
Thank you.